Welcome to the Disconnection Podcast. My name is Kyle Nielsen, and I'm going to be your host for today's show. Good morning. During this episode at Disconnection, we'll be speaking to Leandro Barriga, and Leo is one of my oldest friends, actually my first friend. And Leo, how you doing today?
Hey, what's up, Kyle?
Not too much. I'm happy you could join me for an episode. So let's hop right into it. What was your first memory of being creative?
Okay. So I felt like I've always kind of had some level of creativity. Me kind of being more into the community aspect, because I've always found my friends and people in general to bond well with. And to a certain point, I've just loved activities always. Like, one memory I had was when I was a little kid, we would go to the beach, and it was as a family trip. And my sister, she would always tan, and she would always just kind of lay there. And, going into the water with my dad was fun. But when I saw my sister tan, I don't know. I didn't find pleasure in stuff like that. I wanted to do things. So I actually built sandcastles. And sandcastles made of sand, obviously. And
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know, Jesus Christ. I built some sandcastles, and I had just the most flow and fun doing them. Like, I would find anything, to plastic washed up on the shore, to shells, to sticks, to like using parts of my sister's shit and
just throw part of her clothing in there,
throwing it in, man. And like, for me, that was like maybe some of the early signs of creativity, like just like the daily trips, and like finding ways to play with it, like not just laying there and being within the sun, but kind of like utilizing what is around me. And one of the actual definitive memories I have, which is funny, is when I was like, I want to say first or second grade. We were I don't know if you were in my class, but we had Mr. Gansel as our gym teacher.
Yeah,
I know you know who he is.
Yeah. Great gym teacher. Wore shorts all year round, even in the wintertime. Strange guy, but really, really good guy.
Oh, dude, the best guy. I still do. When I see him, I still call him Mr. Gansel, and he loves it. He loves it. So basically, one day during his gym class, we were all sitting there getting ready to go. We're all just playing and laughing, and he's like, "All right, guys. So before we go out, any questions?" And I raise my hand, and he calls on me, and I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Gansel, do you know any inventors?" And yeah, man, I was interested, and basically everybody in the class started laughing, and Mr. Gansel was like, no, Leo, I'm a gym teacher. Why would I know inventors? And
I see from Brooklyn.
I don't know, man. In my mind, he is.
Go on.
And yeah, basically from that point on, I guess I never asked the question again. Not. I don't think it was because of my friends laughing at me. I think it was just, I just didn't have the guidance that I really always searched for as a creative artist. And it's something that I've noticed kind of throughout the years. But basically from that point on, I've always had an interest in creating things, like whether that be through art or music or writing or, just about every type of medium, but just the aspect of creating things. So I've always been interested. The only problem that happened throughout my years after that experience is that I never got studying well, like most people, like most kids. Like, I never really got book smart throughout my years. And to a certain point, it's definitely a level of the system, the education system we live in, because kids like me and some of my other friends, who actually some of my closer friends grew up in my life, we never really got book smart, just kind of like reading text. That in that world, they kind of put you in what's considered, special courses or, special ed classes.
I remember there was a special
Yeah.
ed class that we took together, and it like taught us how to like properly write. Because I think I would write from the bottom up on my letters, and they'd be like, no,
way.
you have to do it top down. It's a
Wow.
it's a system that, like,
Mhm.
like you said, it's an educational system and it doesn't work for everyone. And some of those SPED classes, right, the special education
Mhm.
classes, they're frowned upon when it's just the people who are in those classes learn in different ways than everybody else. And it's not,
Yeah.
they don't know how to relate to, like, oh, here's a textbook. Oh, I read this chapter. Like, that's not how I learn, you know?
Mhm.
So sorry to cut you off.
It's no, no, no. I actually really like. I didn't know that about you. I think maybe you told me, but it's been so long. But damn, I didn't know you wrote bottom up.
Yeah.
That's. Do you still do that? Like
No,
occasionally?
no, I have no idea. I couldn't.
Oh, so it looks like the system worked.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. No, I just remember being like in fourth grade and staying after class and trying to get English with Mrs. Williams, and it just didn't click. And throughout that's the problem, man. It's like at that age when people are trying so hard for you to get something, you don't make it really through that grade, so they put you in what is the special ed course, and that basically carries out until you finish high school. I remember being in these courses since middle school and high school, and I guess I never had what would be like the prestigious honor of being in an honors class. And to a certain point, I think it's funny because most of the people I've been with in these classes are later artists, are later the types of people that just find different ways of expressing themselves that wouldn't be considered, I guess, the generic way of doing things in life. And that's why I think for a lot of it, I've always felt like I've been an artist or a creative,
Mhm.
but not saying that that's not something people all over the world just are. I just found that for me, it was a different way of doing things. And I don't know, something I've always really pushed that in the education world, in any type of medium of teaching people, you have to get to know the person genuinely so you can find the way to communicate information to them, because it's not just sitting there reading a book or having them explain lessons and repeating nature until they have a fixed image of it, and that it's not even fully within them. It's just like a repetitive slideshow that they reciprocate to you. Like I met this one woman who was a snowboard instructor, and she would teach people. And, some people would get it in the beginning, lean back, go left, lean forward, go right. I'm a regular. So but some people just couldn't get it. So she literally would get to know them and would like find out about them to connect things like, oh, okay, you like sports. Well, I don't know. This could be like baseball. If you're the pitcher, you have to lean behind the plate or pull your whole body forward if you want to like make the ball go a certain degree. I mean, she had different ways of being creative about teaching, which is just as important as being a creative person,
Totally.
thinking outside the box
Right.
always.
Sounds like a great instructor. To be able to adapt the instruction to the specific person is not something that our educational system does. But I wanted to
Oh.
talk to you about, you had mentioned that a lot of your friends, a lot of your close friends
Mhm.
ended up being artists or artistic in some manner. Do you think that because the educational system, the instructions that they received didn't equate to their learning abilities, do you feel like that outlet of being artistic, of finding their own expression, was a direct
Mhm.
result of them not fitting with the system?
So in high school, a few of my friends, because then again, dude, there weren't that many artistic like friends that I kind of had in my vicinity growing up. I would say maybe five, and knowing them in high school, and then after high school, seeing the routes they took, it's interesting to say that they've probably also felt specific ways of not fitting in, and kind of having to find different ways of meeting people who are similar and doing similar things, like whether it be music or movies, film, photography. These things slowly develop because in some way in high school, I felt like the whole system of high school was more of an overwhelming necessity that they felt that they had to be within. Like there couldn't be like a specific route or teacher or book or even space of a club that would be away from the school and actually talking about things that to a certain point, you don't learn in school, like I mean, it's something I can really get into because of my experience being here in Europe that I think is the best part of all of this is because you kind of step outside of what you're used to. And at that age, man, in high school, you don't really have enough experience outside of those walls to be able to be like, oh, okay, so this is basically what was happening. You're in the system and you're basically just trying to find little routes for yourself to feel good. But it's hard because there isn't one specific main route that you can take and then kind of branch out. That route for me was probably like art school.
Which is the direction that you've gone since, high school.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, music in high school, because, okay, so check this out. So in high school, I, let me go into high school a little bit since we're here. I was in high school. Like, there's no other way to say it. I was just in high school. I had my friends. Like, friends were probably the biggest part of my life because, I went through a lot of shit growing up as a kid. And I always found comfort in friends and communication with others and making people feel good, was like my number one thing. So in high school, I had a lot of friends. School obviously did not work out for me in the educational stance of, making tests or notes. And, I did what I had to do to pass, let's say. But it wasn't actually up until I believe I was in Mikey's room and me and Ben were just kind of upstairs on the couch. And we heard at the time, Mikey, Andy, and Ori, I think they were in the band, Red Means Go. These are my friends, by the way, from Tenafly, who I grew up with. And me and Ben were just sitting there, we're playing a little bit. And Ben looks at me and is like, dude, Leo, we should start a band. And I was like, yeah, dude, we should start a fucking band. And that was it, man. That was it. Like that moment, I remember because we started Localide, and Localide was the band we basically had all throughout high school. And that for me, being on stage, singing for the band, and doing creative music, that was the start of what I would say led me to where I am now in my journey of life of art. Because that was the first real art that I passionately loved, and I still to this day love music. I mean, music's my muse, my soul. So like being the front man of the band Localide throughout high school, that was like the biggest thing I looked forward to because it was the one like space where I actually felt like expressive and energetic and connected and loved and making people feel good. Like it all kind of like went together well. Like I finally connected to myself. So that was like the start
feel like,
of everything.
Outside of that, you weren't loved?
I definitely was loved, but I definitely had moments where, I guess I didn't realize that it wasn't so much of what I wanted. It was just more of what the situation was and where I was and kind of just living within that time phrase, like at 16, 17, you're in high school, you have your group of friends, you basically asking the question, where do I fit in? And I fit in with, these group of friends doing what I do, but I never had like that space that I, fully felt connected and kind of wanted to get more of it because I felt like at the time, okay, I got to finish high school. After high school, I'm going to go to college. After college, I'm going to get a job. It's so ingrained, like subconsciously, that you can't really pull yourself aside and be like, wait, why do you have to follow this order? And like actually commit to not following the order. That's the hardest part. You probably do have that. Like, I don't have to be in the system, but I'm in the system. So what can I do while I'm in the system? As much as you can where you feel you. But then again, is that really you? Who is you? And those are the questions that I was asking myself at the time. And I guess I never had the courage to really push myself to figure it out outside of that system until basically I would say
a little bit older.
Yeah, until I left high school. I got kicked out of my first year of college in Florida, and then when I came back, I went to Bergen Community College.
Why'd you get kicked out?
And yeah, okay, my classic kicked out of college story. Man, this is a classic. So up until this point, basically another route that most artists, and let alone jocks, I'm going to go ahead and say jocks as well, we become very big potheads when we're in high school. So I was a pretty big pot smoker to the point where, like most of us, to the point where, yeah, I was just smoking like religiously, and basically, I would say I got into Florida. I got into Tampa University. Me and Ben had this plan. Me and Ben, thanks Ben. Yeah, me and Ben had this plan. We were gonna college together. We were gonna fucking just cause chaos and just rock. And turns out Ben couldn't come. And actually, dude, it was like the only school I got accepted to because my SAT scores were 1420, I would say. And I thought it was hilarious because I'm like, oh, look, 420.
Classic
So
Leo.
bad, man. So bad. Classic. And so, yeah, I basically only got into Tampa University, a private institute up in Tampa, Florida, or down. And I went and I was just so lost, man. I was so lost. First year of college, like asking all these questions, following whatever system order I had. I was there studying general courses. First year of college, you can't really have the liberty to pick specific things. Although at this point, I wanted to study music technology because I had that course there, but I couldn't take it yet because I was, freshman. And so I took all these general, math, science, literature courses, and I was staying actually in the foreign college dorms, which is all the international students who come to this school to study. I was there, and that's actually where I met one of my close friends, Brian, he was my roommate at the time, and to this day, he's still one of my really good friends. So in the time of being together, our room was basically considered the pot smoking den room. All these kids who came from international schools, it was all their first time getting involved into the weed culture and just college and just being able to cut loose culture.
Let's call it the American weed culture.
Sure. I would, yeah, definitely. The American weed culture, the American culture period. I mean, I got to connect well with a lot of these international students, but I guess I was still so embedded in just my culture that I didn't really get to know them as deep as I could have. But my room basically was the pot smoking room. So kids would come from all over the world. This is hilarious to say. Kids would come from all over the world to smoke my weed, basically. And like there was a point, like I have this one memory. My man, Soul Man, he's a friend of mine. Where was he from? I think Saudi Arabia. And he would come and be like, "Hey, yo, Leo," and I'm like, "What's up, man?" It's like, "Hey, dude, do you mind rolling me a joint?" And I'm like, "Soul Man, dude, this is like the 12th time. You got to learn how to roll, man. I can't keep rolling for you." It was like that, man. It was basically like that. So our room was just known, and so this is kind of where things went sour. Things were going great, and to a certain point, but cutting back to what I was saying about being lost, I was just smoking. I wasn't even going to class. I was just wasting my time, and I was trying to connect, but not really actually making the effort because I was like insecure, and I was just just keeping, I don't know, in the train of smoking weed, which is sometimes hard to escape if it's a comfort,
Yeah. If you feel lost and it's like you are not sure what to do with yourself and your time, and it's a nice little, almost like it's a cozy little bed to get into and just, hey, you know what? I'm just going to let the world spin around me. And that's not everyone's take on smoking, but sometimes you can get caught in that cycle.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, weed is just like another amplification. And me personally, I was just dealing with my own insecurities. So with weed, it kind of just like amplified it a little bit. It made me feel better.
So you got kicked out for smoking weed?
Yeah. Long story short, we had like this RA come into our dorms. She basically busted me. I remember I was having a beer with a friend in his room, and another friend came in and was like, "Yo, Leo, they're busting you right now." I'm like, "Oh, fuck." And I wasn't like, "Oh, fuck, they're busting me," because I knew that day would come. I was, "Oh, fuck," because I just opened a beer and I was about to play music with my friend. It was, yeah, no, but there's like an example of where my importance of everything was. So I go to my room and they're busting it. And at the end of the day, they found a bag of stems. And the thing about Florida and the South is that there's a zero tolerance policy for all of that. So one thing led to the other, and the stems actually turned out to be what was considered not just paraphernalia, but weed. So it was like 20 grams I was being charged for. And so, yeah, they called me into like the vice dean's office or whoever that is, and they were like, "Is this yours?" You have to deny till you die. So I was like, no, I ordered some glow sticks from Colorado.
That's the worst
So stupid.
excuse ever.
Absolutely the worst. But I had glow sticks because I was glow stringing at the time,
Nice.
so it was all I could think of. And whatever, he knew it was bullshit. So I basically got kicked out of the dorm room life, but because I wasn't making the GPA requirement of a 2.0, because I didn't go to class or anything, they both kind of like turned into suspension. So I was suspended from school basically for a year. And that's kind of when I came back to New Jersey and decided, like, okay, you know what? I wasn't supposed to be there. Clearly, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. So I decided just to continue the college, like list of continuing classes in Bergen Community College.
And doing this and doing that because that's what everyone expects of you.
Yeah, just kind of like going again through it. But I guess I felt a little bit more at ease to begin exploring. But actually, it actually was after I got kicked out that I came back and I started doing some soul searching. And that's actually when I came upon Landmark Forum. Yeah. I did the Landmark Forum. And it's basically like a weekend workshop where you have this leader who kind of sends you through certain distinctions of your life that help you kind of gear to look at yourself through a blind spot and be able to find, I guess, truth to the patterns that you live, kind of showing you the areas that you're unable to see because you just keep living them through, whatever old experience that you're holding on to. And so
to live subjectively through something, and you can't objectively view your life because you're in it.
Basically, exactly. And I guess when I did the whole seminar,
and you'd call it an equivalent to like a mindfulness seminar, yeah?
Absolutely. I think that was the keystone for me to get even involved with meditation.
Awesome.
The biggest thing I got out of that whole weekend was the relationship with my sister, because up until when I was 8 years old, my parents got divorced, and up until the divorce, I kind of felt like it was going to happen because they'd been fighting, and there was just like a lot of problems in the house. And I'm a kid, but they try hiding things, but they can't hide everything. So I kind of knew it was going to happen. I didn't want it to, obviously. I don't know if my sister did too at the time. She might have, but I remember walking into the house, or maybe my room. I don't really remember where I was before, but I was called down to the dinner table. And my mom, dad, my sister, and we were all sitting there. And it was so hard for them to say it. But even before saying it, I just knew it was going to come out. So I just started to cry. And then they said it. And I was like, no, wait, why? Like, why? Like, what can we do? I was just trying to make things happen. My sister, I remember looking at my sister, and she was also covered in tears, just looking down, like just very upset though, like not so much asking questions, just very upset, like crossed arms, like in her own world with all of it. And I was there just trying to understand a little bit. My mom was also crying, and my dad, I mean, from this point of view, in that moment, my dad was probably looked at as the villain, looked at as the guy who's breaking up our family to a certain point. That's actually when I called you. I remember this happened, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to or anything to do, but I just knew I needed to get out. I needed to tell somebody because it was just so unreal for me. So that's actually when I called you, and I said, like, hey man, my parents just got a divorce. Or separated, because now they actually just finalized the divorce a couple days ago. But yeah,
I remember that. I remember you telling me that, and I remember when you did tell me that, every time my parents would fight as a kid, I would think like, oh my God, they're going to get a divorce, because I correlated your life like equal to mine. Like anything that happens to you, it could happen to me too. And yeah, I shared what I could of your experience and your pain, but I remember that phone call. Yeah.
I don't. Wow, that's really cool, Kyle. I really didn't know that. I didn't know that my impact on that had such a play in your own life as well.
There's a reason people call us so similar, dude.
That's true, man. Dude, everybody said it here, man. Everybody, and I knew it was gonna happen. Even Xenia was like, "Oh my God, this is too much for me."
All right, so go on. So
Literally.
parents got a divorce. You called me.
Yeah. So, parents got divorced. I called you, and long story short, I think whenever we have those specific traumas in our life, for me at least, because things were out of my control and I didn't really understand it at the time, and you were there because you actually played a big part in the whole like future friend aspect of finding comfort in my friends, is that I decided that I would do whatever I could to make sure people wouldn't have to feel this type of pain or this type of I could even say quote unquote violence of
Emotional
suffering,
violence.
because my parents, yeah, exactly, emotional violence. There was never really any domestic violence, but emotional violence. And I basically shaped my life to be there for whoever needed in that aspect. I mean, I really don't want to sound like a hero when I say that, because to a certain point, it would even cause me to not do, let's say, what I wanted to do, or just kind of just let people take
Mhm.
advantage of me for that certain specific sense. And not that they wanted to take advantage of me, maybe not all the time, but just because I didn't connect so much with my genuine self, I was too traumatized by my experience to kind of want to relive any type of pain. So whenever there was pain or doubt or no or rejection, I kind of steered away. Whether that was having relationships and people in my life who would only tell me yes, or if it was a no, I would kind of just walk the other way. I wasn't able to view things just kind of how they were. I would have this attachment to my past, and so to a certain light, just going back to landmark, is that the relationship with my sister after the divorce was terrible, because she had to deal with the separation in her own way, and her way of with it was being angry at the world, being angry at my dad, being angry at basically any and everyone. At least in the house, I don't know how many people of her friends, because I think she did have some friends that she was able to feel open with and connect with, but she was angry, and me specifically, because I was the closest one to her in the house environment. And she didn't do it personally, but that was what it felt like at the time. So I grew up not really wanting to be at the house, because my sister, if I did see her there, it would feel like verbal abuse. It'd feel very, very, negative and abusive to me. So that's why I spent most of my time out with my friends, doing fun stuff, just making people laugh. I just felt like I owed it to them and myself to just kind of bring goodness anywhere I went, as much as I could. Obviously there were times I would feel upset or angry or frustrated, but it's weird. Like, I would find ways to, I guess, not show it as well, because, dude, I played football in high school, and like, I didn't even
Really?
like want to hit, man. Like, I didn't even want to like body check or anything. Like, I mean, I was like, yeah, let's do football, we'll hit, but I never really took it that seriously. I never was like, yeah, let's fucking hit each other. I mean, at some point it was fun as hell, you're hitting people, but it was never like, I don't know. I guess I wasn't as meat heavy as most people can be. In general, these were aspects of the influence that shaped me for who I am now. I am a more sensitive person, and I am because I've led time to learn specific aspects of, I don't know, the soft soul that lives within, and try to search for more in that aspect, to not just be such a brute, because I didn't like brutes. I didn't like negative people. I didn't like violence. I didn't like that, because it reminded me of my past a lot. So going back to my sister, we didn't have a good relationship after the divorce. And when I did Landmark, I actually I was able to distinguish what happened when I was a little kid versus the story I created from that experience. So basically, my sister, in when my parents got divorced, she dealt with it the way that she had to deal with it, because she's a kid. She dealt with it by being upset at the world, and lo and behold, I was the closest person in her world at that time. So I did get a lot of the baggage. But anytime I said verbal abuse, anytime I said she was a monster, anytime I said she was the worst person ever, was all the story I created, without being able to see that she was just dealing with it the way she could as a kid. And and as long as I had some type of relationship with her after, I would always have this feeling of this is what you did to me. So why should I be close to you, or why should I be friends with you? Like, you'll never be able to see
Mhm.
it because I've never brought it up, but it still exists there, and it's so strong and powerful. And it's hard for people to have conversations with these people because something so traumatic and strong that's there, it's difficult to eliminate. But after I did the weekend seminar, and I was able to find these tools that helped me in realizing the distinction of my life that I was living with her, I was finally able to actually see my sister for who she was now, because now she's not all those things. She grew up, to a certain point, but I wasn't able to see her. I remember one time she was crying while I was downstairs in my basement. She went through something, I had no idea what, but she was crying, and she was just sitting there, and I was sitting on my computer in the same room, just without even headphones, just watching something online. And I didn't even have the fucking courage to go over to her, give her comfort, and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Because I was so stubborn in whatever happened in my past with her, and I was so still upset at her, and I felt so bad. I felt so bad afterwards that when I actually talked to her and I told her, like, "Tree, there was this one moment that you were crying, and I couldn't even like be a brother. I couldn't even be the brother you needed." I felt so bad that I don't know. I never wanted that. I never wanted to be that type of person because I was becoming a monster. I was forgetting who she is. And I guess for the first time in my life, after I did the forum, I was able to see my sister. I was able to see her for who she really is, and it was beautiful, and it was amazing, and it was magic. And then I was able to have the conversation that I was never able to have with her, where I was able to share with her, "Tricia, when we were little kids, this is how I felt growing up, and this is what I made you be in my life, and that I'm sorry that I wasted so many years causing so many pains that didn't need to be deserved, and what I made you responsible for, and you're not, because you were just a kid. You were just dealing with it in the way that you found the only way possible, and you know what, some of those ways influenced you, they influenced me on a great scale. You showed me music, you showed me rock, you showed me like cool shit growing up. Like, she's half the reason I'm even doing art now, and she's most of the reason that I even do music. She picked up
Nice.
the drums, I picked up the drum. She picked up the bass, I picked up the bass. Like, that's kind of like
Right,
older
right.
sister, older brother to younger siblings always. But it was just, I was able to have that conversation with her, and that was the biggest thing for me, because at the end of the day, that influence, that trauma that I had was existing in every aspect of my life, not just with her, but with people, with bosses, with teachers, with friends. Like, if until you get clear with what it is with your family, you're never really going to be able to experience anything outside of that 100%, because you're always going to have that little bit of trauma just existing within you always.
Right. And part of that trauma, you can't get rid of it, but to acknowledge it and to say, hey, this is what happened to me, and this is why I acted, or this is why I act the way I act, to acknowledge your, as you said, story, what you create around the reality of what's happening.
Yeah,
Um, Part of that is the mindfulness to, this is what it is, and this is how I uh, reacted and how it
interpreted.
affected, yeah, the interpretation. you know, you came back, you took this forum, and it allowed you to, be introspective for your life. What did you feel motivated to do next? What
Yeah.
with this communication
It,
tool? What next?
yeah, I spoke to my sister, and I really wanted her to do the forum, because I think there's a lot of self like clarity that she could also achieve, because to a certain point she was still holding on to a few things regarding the divorce and the separation, and I'm sure there's certain things that she probably still would like to engage in. So I tried getting her to do it. She really wasn't down to do it at the time, but that's okay, because I believe that we all find these things when we really want them. And so she's continuing doing her thing. She's continuing doing her life, and it's beautiful. My mom, my dad, I also had different conversations with them regarding all of this. And then for me, well, not even just my family. So from my family, I went to my friends. I had different conversations with my friends, things I was making them wrong for that weren't real, and that I wanted to recreate real,
Hmm.
deep, powerful relationships. I don't want to just continue my old habits of smoking weed all the time, or sitting around, not being able to utilize my life. So after I was so empowered from this event, and so in a new empty glass is like how we like to view it, because you fill up your glass with different baggage or different experiences, and doing this weekend workshop was like a way to empty the glass, was a way to clear out all that extra, and be able to look at your life as a nothing, as a blank canvas, as what do you want in your life, what do you want to start creating, basically. I mean, as a creative person, when I'm asked that, I get so excited. I
Yeah.
get so excited. I'm like, what do I want to build in my life, man? My life should be like that always. And so those things are important. So in that moment, I was really, really powerfully engaged on taking music, and taking even art, not just music, but art in general, down the path that I guess I never really thought of taking seriously, because I was afraid. I was afraid of what people told me, of saying like, dude, this is a difficult path. You might not get a job. You might not succeed. You might not be what you want to be as a full-time artist. It's a difficult route, but at the same time, yeah, I'm fucking afraid. I mean, who isn't, of the final powerful choices they make in life? So to a certain point, I really wanted to learn more. I had this hunger to learn more. So in that moment, I decided to take some continuing education courses, because it was actually right before the summer, and Bergen didn't start till later. So I did some courses actually in photography and silk screen. I don't know, image based mainly, because I guess at the time I was into that. And then when I went to Bergen, because that's actually when I started Bergen Community College, continuing my education, but not just the general courses, but I took some music classes like production and band and shit like that. And I did that for about 2 years, and through my whole experience, I decided that music production and recording wasn't essentially the full outlet that I wanted, because it felt you had
Hmm.
to commit to music 100% if you wanted to be a musician. And me personally, I love music. It's the best thing. I still play. I play open mics, but it wasn't so much the route I wanted for myself as a
Hmm.
creative aspect in my art world. Music was just one of those tools. So I did that. I learned as much as I could. And when I took the art courses that I did in Bergen, um, I really like painting. I really like drawing. I really like, well, not drawing so much. I'll be honest. Drawings, I'm just not. I'm not as advanced in drawing as I really want to be. And at the end of the day, it's just draw more. Just draw, 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 draw. You don't even need a teacher. You just got to keep drawing. But painting was really fun. I really love painting because colors, man. I've always been about colors. That's one thing that I've always loved. So when I graduated Bergen, I graduated doing those minimal art classes. I actually got a degree in fine arts, associate's degree. And basically, the other thing I was doing, complementing all
Hmm.
of this with work, actually, because I was also working, I was actually editing videos for my dad's company, Fagor America Inc., which is actually not going to be a thing anymore. He's opening up a new company of kitchen appliances. But he'll tell you probably more about that when you talk to him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And basically, I was editing videos. I was a really good editor because ever since I was a kid, I really like making people laugh. So whenever we had group projects growing up in high school and middle school, we would make videos, and they would be some of the best fucking memories of my life, man. Like people to this day still ask me about those videos. I mean, and it was another way to be creative. It was another way that I guess I didn't really see as art. I saw it more as having a good time,
You
but it
always had
was
a video camera with you.
always had a video camera, documented my life, and then I would edit. I would edit because I was good. That was my practice. I would edit videos for friends. I would edit videos for my dad, and I wanted to see how far I can do that in a professional aspect. So I left Bergen, and I joined an internship with this company HQ. through Mitchell Stewart. He was one hell of a boss. I mean, I'll be honest, his energy was 1,000 times both of us. He
Jesus.
Yeah, he it's almost like he had coffee, but he didn't. He was very zen in many ways, but he was just bop, 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 ready to go, ready to go. And that's kind of what it was as an experience for me in production. I've learned, in production, that's the attitude, man. You realize like that energy is everywhere and all the time. And I guess to a certain point, like I guess my experience in doing production full time, being an assistant and an internship and editing. I actually edited some videos for Paul Heyman. He's a WrestleMania. He started off as an announcer and he became like just like the head of all of WWE. I'm not gonna go too much into him, but he was actually a pretty cool guy. I'm not gonna lie. He was I don't know. He was an interesting dude. Not my per se type of person that I want to
Right.
be friends with, but he definitely had that production energy. Because people in the production world, they're hard hitters, heavy ballers. I don't even know if those are
No,
real
yeah, you're,
definitions of
you're just
people.
describing.
I
Yeah.
don't even know. I'm just making like words combined to make the
Yeah.
feelings of it. And I edited a lot, but I realized the world of editing, the world of production was very fake. It was very fake for me. I did food at stylizing. I did, fashion photography. I did all of the things basically behind the camera, and I wasn't connected to any of it because to me it was all fake. As a kid, I would film what we did because it was real and it was funny and it was great. But then taking it as a professional aspect, it was all fake, and I didn't like it. Editing was getting really ghost like. It was getting really boring because I wasn't editing things of passion, of creative outlets, of expression. It was just like, okay, we have a story, not saying that this is bad, but we have a story and we're going to take it. We're going to keep doing takes until we get it the way we like it. It's kind of like when you take a photo and you upload it onto Instagram, you go through 1,000 different filters. You go through 1,000 different, photos to get to the one that you think is like worthy of being your filter of expression on your gram or
Sure, Graham.
your thing. And these are all little connections that I made that made me kind of not want to continue down social media as well. I think it was this time too that I decided to not do Facebook for a year because I was spending way too much time on the news feed, and like you don't realize it, but you become conditioned to these images, because we as human beings are addicted to screens ever since like fire. It was a version of a screen. So I don't know. I can go really deep on that, but
Let's keep going with your story.
yeah. Let's keep
Yeah.
going. Thank you. Uh, so yeah, I didn't like editing. I didn't like production. So I quit. I quit that job, and I did some traveling, and I think it was. But I decided that I wanted to take art school like head on. Like I really wanted to go, and not just art school, dude. I've wanted to go to California. Okay, let me say that. Ever since end of high school, I've always had the call to go west. West is the best, baby. I don't know. People have always told me, dude, you should go to the West Coast. And it's probably because I had long hair and I longboarded, but it's also because like I don't know. I just things there seemed more chill. So I
Yeah.
decided to apply. And apply to college. I found CCA, California College of the Arts. I went to visit it with my dad, fell in love with the campus, fell in love with San Francisco. I mean, it was just everything. I mean, I'll be honest, like I was listening to Going to California by Led Zeppelin on my way there. I was listening to like San Francisco. Like, I don't know. I just being like romantic
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
whole experience, because it's just everything I wanted. And I applied to the school. I got in. And up until this point, I've lived in New Jersey my whole life. My whole life. So this was the first time I was leaving. Of course, my parents were worried. Everybody, my friends, they're like, dude, yeah, this is it. Nice, nice.
But you didn't stay in California. Like you're not in California right now. I'm sitting in my room talking to you, but you're
No,
not in
no.
Cali.
Yeah. No, not Cali. Cali was about in 2016 or 2015 to 2016. Yes, 16 that I went to Cali. And yeah, Cali was the first time I just did it. I went by myself. I started school. I would say that the life-changing moment, at least for my career, because I originally went to study industrial design. I went to study industrial design because when I was a little kid, going back to the first story I told, I wanted to be an inventor. So to be an inventor, a lot of what I saw that as, with Da Vinci as being like one of my icons in that, is that industrial design was that field. I didn't really know what it was, but I just wanted more, man. I just always wanted more. But I wanted to start in something that was quote unquote,
Right.
safe. So I did it. I did industrial design, and I took one class that changed my life. And it was this one class with the teacher that I will never forget. It was Barbara Holmes. She was the furniture intro to furniture teacher, and she told me about this class. And I really wanted to do things with my hands, and I wanted to learn about wood. And you know what? I was like, okay, I'll do it. And it was my favorite class. It was the only class that wasn't part of my industrial design program. All the other industrial design programs were fun, but I never connected. So I built a chess table, and it was the first table I built. And I would tell you right now, that was a landmark for me to decide that I wanted to become that type of artist, that type of maker. I wanted to go into the world of craft. I wanted to go into the world of materials, of even sculpture, I would say. But furniture was kind of like the root that I connected with. And that would be basically California, because California, as much as it was a travel to go and experience, it was just the career of classes and the work that I did in materials and that environment that I really grew from. I would say that I guess I had some close relationships in San Francisco, but I never really had, I guess, the full connection to people. And that's something I guess that would lead me to the story of Spain, of why I'm here now. I guess growing up, I did have some connections, but there was an aspect of our culture in America that I never really connected with. I mean, I was grew up somewhat in a Spanish household, and I had what was, I guess, an American childhood. I
Definitely had an American childhood. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I grew up in like in a European household. I mean, my buddy Nicola Hen, he could probably vouch more for that one. But for me, yeah, I grew up there, and I guess I never fully connected with the importance of what our country sees in a form of, let's say, a capitalistic culture, and kind of the fear aspect. Because I really want to say that fear is a big role to why people in our specific cities of, let's say, New York or San Francisco, kind of like makes us do or act the way we do, and kind of makes us not connect as much between people. Um, to a certain point, I never connected that deeply. I wanted other things, of course, but in San Francisco, I would say I connected more to the people than I did in New York ever. Not saying New York's bad or anything. This is just like my own experience. But I always also just felt my energy being more into the simple things of life, like conversations or meals or, you know, just one-on-ones, and giving people opportunity to be open in that aspect, not having conversations like, okay, what can you give me, what can I give you? If we can't give each other anything, why have we been talking? That drive, and more of just kind of like a general understanding of how people should be treated or treat other people in
Mm.
America. We're it's a heavy world of America, and I it's just I hate saying America. Like, I hate talking about America as like a general scope of, because not everybody is
Right.
like this, but it's just our culture has been in a world of fear, and because of that, I think there's a lot of non-connection that we've been living in. We try so hard to be connected with, I've been listening to a lot of your podcasts and you guys touch upon it, but like, with media and different forms of, let's say, technology to connect people. But it doesn't connect us. It actually causes a lot of more problems in let's say social aspects. You want to connect with people, but you're still putting up things that only show a general highlight or aspect of yourself, and then people have to kind of live up to whatever those expectations are subconsciously, and then they create their own like depressions out of that. I mean, there's a thing called Facebook depression, which is
Yeah.
crazy, and it's something I never wanted. I mean, I to a certain point I had a flip phone and I was doing well with that. I mean, only up until I got to Spain did I get back onto the social media grind and a better phone, I guess a smartphone, because I needed to communicate or locate myself more here. But Europe to me, when I went, okay. So now I just remember the reason why I wanted to come to Spain. This was all happening. These things were happening beneath the layers of my skin. They were happening. But until I went backpacking with my buddy Brian, my first roommate in college from
Hmm.
Tampa, and we visited Europe. We went everywhere. But it wasn't up until I did El Camino, Santiago de Compostela in Spain, where I decided that I was going to become not just an artist, an installation artist, and I was going to live in Spain. Spain for me, during the experience that I've been here, or 2 years ago that I went backpacking and visited, I connected more with the Spanish culture in a whole because of the way they viewed the important things of life and the way they connected, that I was able to connect on that. And for me, that's everything I wanted. I mean, sure, if you want to be the best you can be and succeed the most that you can, I would say America's the place to be. You work hard enough, you're going to get what
Yeah.
you want. For me personally, I don't want so many things right now. I want the space to be creative and create my art, but I genuinely want deeper connections, and I wanted better relationships, and I wanted great food that isn't processed and covered in donkey shit. Well, technically it kind of is, I guess, to a
Oh
certain
man.
point. But but like these were the minimal things that I really wanted, and I connected so well with that in Spain when I was visiting, and I did El Camino. I had enlightenment, and it was everything I wanted, that I decided that I was going to live in Spain, and I was going to live through the school. I was going to do an exchange program because my school had that possibility, and I figured, kill two birds. I'd be able to get my credits, continue school, and I'd be living the life that I really wanted, which was in Spain. See what it's like living, not just traveling, but
Yeah.
living. So that's kind of where I spent the year in California doing my stuff, but also applying to Spain. So this past September was basically when I came to Spain, because I got in. I was so happy. Great fucking story. So I knew I was supposed to come here for one big reason, and my school really fucked up. So it's basically like 2 weeks before I'm supposed to hear back from if I got in or not. Up until this point, I sent in all my information to my school, my what's it called, my international student exchange office,
Hmm.
whatever, and I gave them all my shit, and they were supposed to send it to my school in Spain. So I haven't been hearing anything back, and it's 2 weeks before like the deadline or the whatever I hear back from them. So I send them an email. I send my school in Spain an email, and I say, "Hey, I just want to make sure you guys receive the information well. Really excited, but I also really want to know, más o menos like when I'll hear back from you guys." And they told me they didn't receive anything.
Oh my God.
They told me they never received anything, and that I guess my school just forgot to send them shit. At that point, I was so like pissed because in a weird way, my school has had some very sketchy and not great at anything sometimes moments. And this was one of them. So I hit up my school. I was like, "Hey," so I just talked to Spain, and they told me you guys didn't send anything. So what's going on? First off, and second off, can you please just send this stuff? So long story short, they send the stuff, and I got in. I got in
Awesome.
with a week deadline ahead of me, and that's when I knew. I was freaking out.
Yeah.
Obviously, I
Yeah.
was like, "Dude, if I don't get in, this is what I want. I want to go to Spain." And so I got in, and it was the happiest I was, and I was very content. I was very excited, and I guess that's kind of when I started somewhat practicing my Spanish, because I knew I was going to have to come here and speak. But I never had a problem with that because I actually grew up. My parents speak to me in Spanish, so luckily, there's some people I know who didn't, and I'll tell you right now, knowing a second language while in Europe is a blessing. Like I've met so many people who can understand Spanish or English or both, and it's just such a clutch tool to have. But yeah, so September came, and Leo Barriga, perdón, Leandro Barriga. See, this was a big thing for me. I know it's minimal for most people, but this was a big thing for me because for my whole life, I had been telling people to call me Leo. I've been telling them to call me Leo because nobody could ever pronounce my name the way I guess I wanted it to be, or even like it was nice for me. They would always say Leandro, or they would call me Alejandro, by accident. And that's actually one thing I hate is when you call me Alejandro, because it reminds me a lot of the Lady Gaga song, and no, that was worse.
Yeah, totally not your name also.
Not my name. But Leo's, I don't have a problem with Leo. I actually kind of do like Leo sometimes. But when I came to Spain, I knew people would say my name the way it was supposed to be. So here I'm actually, called Leandro, and I really like it. And so, so anyway, I got here and September rolled around. So Leandro Barriga on his great adventure to Spain.
A hero in an epic tale.
Basically, which I hope one day I do actually put something together. I'm really looking forward to reading your book, but you're inspiring me. Dude.
It's going to be coming out soon.
Yeah. You're really inspiring me to kind of put together something within all of my experiences as well. So thank you.
Absolutely. So wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Let's not get all fuzzy with you.
Let's not get to the plugs yet.
So you're in Spain right now. And we were speaking before the podcast about something that you're doing right now. You're crocheting. Tell me about what it is that you're trying to do with that.
Okay, cool. So, we'll get part of this. When I was in middle school, I joined the knitting club. I was the only male in the knitting club. And, I only went to like maybe 3 club meetings because I was also just such a sporadic guy, but I really, really wanted to learn about knitting. Like I thought it was cool, I thought it was fun and relaxing and cool. And I made a scarf that like I never finished. I think it's somewhere. I don't even know, but I never continued. Yeah. I never continued that route again. Before I left to Spain, I made like one of the world's best. She's one of the best people in the fucking world. And I have the beautiful courtesy to call her my best friend. Mallory. Yeah, she's probably listening to this right now. What up, Mal?
Yeah. You're very trusting in the people that are listening to the podcast.
Yeah, man, they trust me, right? Why not?
Totes.
But we had a great, beautiful relationship before I left to back to Jersey to go to Spain. It was the last summer. It was the summer before I left California, and she does a lot of textiles, a lot of knitting, a lot of sewing, crocheting. She's a fashion major, and she's working real, real hard, man. One of the hardest women I know working. She just did a trip to Sri Lanka. But anyway, she was the one who actually really inspired me to start doing fabrics again and working in textiles. And lo and behold, she actually gave me a crochet hook before I left to go on this trip, because I told her, I had this interest and I was getting into it, but I guess, she gave me the hook because she knew I would love it. So I did. I do love it. Thank you, Mallory. Thank you very much. And basically, I started crocheting when I came to Spain because I had the time and I just dedicated some work to it. And I've been crocheting now, and I find so much pleasure from it. And one big thing, I guess, that I've always experienced growing up is that, like I was saying before, like a while ago, about me kind of being more sensitive, is that I really like this world of fabrics and knitting and crocheting, and that there was a connotation to it that, it was a female work or female life of doing this types of stuff, that I guess it wasn't manly or what, I don't want to go too much into sexism and shit like that, but that I personally was more of a sensitive guy, and I like things like this, and I wasn't so much of what you would consider your generic male or brute male. Right. And so I really got into crocheting, and I'm doing it now, and I'm loving craft in general, things that, like weaving and carving and I guess the things that, yes, to a certain point in our past were more of a female life world.
Or considered to be a female role to do.
Yeah. which, yeah, exactly, was considered to be a female role to do. And a big intention of me doing all this, now that I've been doing a lot and viewing this, is that I really want to push for more males, kind of, I guess, who share similar stories to me, or have interest in it, to, go ahead and do it. And I guess not have like the thinking that is, that this is like unmanly to do. But it's not. It's actually quite fun, and it's cool, and it's relaxing. It's everything a man needs in a certain way, because it's patience. You learn a lot about how you put your energy into something, because to a certain degree, each stitch, each knot is like breathing and meditation. It's like an observation of how you are with yourself, because it'll show. I mean, that's the energy that exists in art in general. Cooking, is a beautiful example of it. If you, like, I guess Santi was saying a little bit about cooking, if you're really there, if you're meditative in it, you will taste the true beauty that was each vegetable ingredient, or whatever. For me, knitting and crocheting, you get to see the dynamics of yourself in the work, depending on if it's too tight in a certain area, or if it's too loose, or if you just don't concentrate for a second. I'm getting to a point now where I guess I don't have to concentrate as hard. In the beginning, man, in the beginning, dude, my hands hurt, like it was like learning the guitar again for the first time. It was just,
Wow.
I was so tense. But through time and through just relaxing and learning proper technique, you start to flow to a point where it's just, a rhythmic pattern, and you're counting, and there's actually a nice little science to it. I mean, if you look at, binary codes of ones and zeros, like crocheting is somewhat of a template as well. You have specific hooks that you put into certain knots, and it all changes. But so I am crocheting. I'm loving it, and I'm trying to get it going so I can actually begin my own little crafts, selling of it. So I'm putting together some baskets now, because I want to start selling stuff here in Spain, because there's a lot of craft shops. And
Awesome,
once
dude.
that, yeah, keep an eye out, because once that actually keeps going, and I get to the point where I can actually start teaching, but I really want to start a club or some type of social
Class.
network, a class as well, called Brochet. And
Crochet.
that's it's a Leandro Barriga trademark, that should be highlighted. And yeah, I'm gonna start Brochet classes, because I think it's
It's
important.
about guys
Yeah, it's
crocheting.
okay. Kyle, keep going, please, please.
Sorry. It's such a great name.
Yeah, it's basically that. It's about bros, because the culture of bro culture is these aggressive, hard-headed dudes, but who probably want to get in touch with these softer sides. And I want to, I guess I want to continue that for people, and mainly male audience. I mean, I'm open to everybody. I'm not specific, but I think it'll be empowering for men, because there's so much movement right now for females, and I respect and I find so much beauty in that, because it's so much necessary that we need an equality. And to a certain point, me growing up as being this type of male who, I guess I never, like I said, was bruteful in the male aspect. So I didn't really know where I fit in, with whether I was the male that maybe a lot of females were fighting, or maybe I was more. I'm not dissing anything with gay culture, but I would never really felt gay.
Hmm.
But I guess maybe somebody who looks at what I do could consider it to be gay. I mean, I've been called gay a bunch of times growing up, because I've been so, touchy feely. I've given hugs. I've just been more of a loving person by that nature. So to a certain point, where do I really fit in all that? Like, what side of whatever am I? But I don't know. For me, at the end of the day, the crocheting aspect, the being sensitive, is just another a way to understand someone or something. And I think it's important for that to become more accepted in more males, let's say.
Totally. I completely agree with you. There's it's partly labeling, when you label yourself, you feel like you have to fit exactly to that label. And that's not what people are. We're fluid. We move and ebb back and forth between different things. And I mean, when I had come forward and said on the podcast with Alessandra that like I had been molested, for
Yeah.
a guy to say that, it's so against the norm of guys. Don't that doesn't happen to guys. That's not what we experience in life. And like it's the reality though, and it happens. And guys being sensitive, like for people to always need to be like guys are manly and they don't have emotions or they don't talk about emotions and they got men don't cry and sack up, like that idea, it suppresses the emotional side for men. And just talking about it is so important because it lets everyone know, hey, like there are a spectrum of people, whether you're male, female, or whatever you want to call yourself. It's
Yeah.
You don't have to be one thing. It's not who you are as an individual.
Exactly. And I want to also, dude, acknowledge you for what you did, because that was just the most beautiful thing, dude. I actually listened to the podcast, and it's just the courage, dude. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about having courage and just saying what it is and what happened. And no, whatever, dude. If somebody wants to judge you or crucify you, it's just the lack of knowledge. At the end of the day, we live
Completely agree.
in a society where we need this knowledge, we need this information, so we can actually create awareness. I mean, to a certain point, I've been more open in these areas, like for example, like I know people here who are transvestites, and growing up in certain traditional pueblos here in Spain, it was hell for them, because the older community, they didn't have the knowledge, and probably if they did have the knowledge, it wasn't taught in the way they would have understood.
Right.
So there's a level of responsibility in all of this, that is just that it's about spreading our stories, showing people that it's okay, and creating different routes to learning. And like I said before, man, that's why I love what you're doing with all of this, because this is the best way that I find for people not only be open, express themselves, but that we can learn from each other. We can learn from these stories. I've learned so much listening to you speaking with Alessandra and Casey. Oh, Casey, dude, you're like my hero, bro. I love what you did, man. It's a part of what happens, and you're using the media the right way in how we should be connected, not blinded by image. That's why at the end of the day, this is just talking. This is just sound. This isn't to, you know, put an image so that you'll remember it only by that. You'll actually take from this what you want. And I don't want to get too sidetracked by like talking too much about the whole of what this is, but in a weird way, my intentions for everything that I'm doing is is just to give people some other ways to look at stuff. I've always been different in the aspect of growing up, being like in high school. Like I've always found myself liking more sensitive things, or finding a weird way to look at stuff, or and being super friendly. I've always had the friendly aspect. I guess that's why traveling has been, to a certain point, great. Don't get me wrong, man. I still suffer a lot from insecurities. I mean, they come into my mind like as easy as, I don't know, like as easy as it can be, and I have to find that it's not real, and I have to go back to my meditations, and I have to just be in the moment. And that's the key point for me right now, is that I finally found here in Spain a space where I can nurture that aspect of myself, and find, I guess, some type of solace. And one thing that happened that I wanna highlight in is that Xenia, she's been one of the, again, like I said, my muse and milestone, and that I love her dearly. She left to
Xenia,
Ireland on Monday.
just so everyone knows,
Hmm.
Xenia was Leo's girlfriend while he's been in Spain.
Yeah, yeah. She was my Spanish muse, man. She still is always going to be. And basically, I took her to the airport with her dad on Monday, and when she left to Ireland, it was the first time in my life where I was able to be at an airport and not be the one leaving, or not have the sensations of wanting to leave, in the sense that I wanted to go and find where it is that I needed to go next, as like a physical place. Some people find it with things. I needed to travel. I've always been someone who needs to travel, always. I guess that's also because most of my family is in Chile, and so I would travel to Chile growing up as a kid a lot. But when I saw her leaving and I was at the airport, it was the first time in my life where I was actually content with being where I was and not needing to leave. And to a certain point, it was a home that I felt, a home that I found, and a thing that's necessary for everybody to leave their home, to leave everything they've known, to be alone, to be somewhere that will put you in an environment that you know nothing of, and that maybe you have expectations going there, but that they're not going to be met. And that's okay. It's okay that they're not met. It's actually more necessary that they're not met, or else you'll never find the new aspects of what you can be, because you'll just be living within what you want it to be and how you thought it was going to be. And so that's kind of what this whole journey for me was, is that I've been living my whole life just trying to find my home. And I'm always going to be, Spain's my home now, but who knows where I'm going to want to go to next. Yeah, as long as you act upon the calls that you have in life, as long as you act upon the omens, as I read in The Alchemist calls them, you'll kind of just you'll live a life, but maybe you'll find something more if you're able to just take that step, and you're able to be, let's say, mindful about it, when you go, that you don't just try holding on to this idea that you're creating, accept what it is and see what you can create within. Life has a way of dealing cards to you, and you have a way of playing the hand in a certain light. You could play whatever hands you want, or if you don't like the game, just play a new game, dude. It's that easy. You don't have to get so wrapped up in the fantasy. And so I guess travel, and travel with beautiful intention, travel with open arms, and travel because you want to travel for you, and make the choices for yourself, and fuck it, go into the wild. Into the wild, baby.
Yeah. Just to touch upon traveling.
Yeah.
Traveling doesn't mean that, you have to go from location to location externally. Traveling can also be an internal thing. It can be a searching and a reflection of what you want as an individual. But nonetheless, what you say about travel with intention, it's beautiful, and it's a great way to travel. One of, I believe, the more important ways, whether internally or externally. And Leo, I really want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And
Yeah.
our time draws to a close, please give me a plug or something.
Just real quickly. Just highlighting on what you were saying. You're right. Traveling within is always the first travel. I had to do so much, and I'm still doing so much, but I had to do so much soul searching before I could actually take that leap, because it's important to first travel within before you can travel without, because you're going to just realize that even no matter where you go, the same things are going to occur of, let's say, quote unquote problems, but
Mm-hmm.
you're going to come across similar things, and it's how you start dealing with them, because you start dealing with yourself in that aspect. So definitely within always. So yeah, thank you,
That was
Kyle.
beautifully said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. I also, dude,
Yeah, no problem.
I also really want to thank you for the books you gave me, man. Like see, that's the one thing. It's like, I'm reading in Spanish. Don't get me wrong. My Spanish game is juicy, but
Nice.
I've been trying to, like,
Juicy.
yeah, muy jugoso, as we like to say. But I've been trying to just read more on a lot of this. So thank you for giving me some of the books that I asked you to bring from the States, man.
Absolutely. My
Yeah.
pleasure, man.
Yeah. So I guess sign off. I don't really have a plug at the moment. But
If anyone wants to reach you, see you, what's up?
yeah.
Instagram.
Leonidas8, the number 8, and Leonidas with a T, not a D. So Leonitus 8. I'm not really on Snapchat anymore. I was when I was
Fuck that.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I had a lot of fun doing it, but when people were like, "Dude, Leo, like, why aren't you on Snapchat anymore? Your stories are hilarious." I'm like, yeah, I know, but I'm kind of not there right now. Let me just do what I'm doing. So
Yeah,
Instagram.
let me live my life.
Let me live my life. I mean, I even tried doing like a whole YouTube channel, like a cooking show thing. maybe I'll like edit it and post it, because it's kind of funny. I show how to make Jello shots. Like,
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
please post that.
Yeah, I gotta find it. I gotta see if I can edit it. But Yeah, Facebook, you can reach me too. It's Leo Barriga right now, but I think I'm gonna change the name. I think it's time.
Yeah,
And
to your real name.
yeah, it's my real name. And I don't know. I guess you could just find me through those. I want to say keep an eye out though, because hopefully within this year I'm gonna take craft to that level and actually make an individual Instagram page for it. So I'll be
Awesome.
showing that process, and yeah, keep me accountable for moving along with the brochure as well, because
You got it.
that's what it's about. So yeah, thanks, Kyle. Man, I had a lot of fun doing this, bro. This was a
Yeah, Leo, thank you so much for coming on.
yeah. Okay, dude, I have a request.
What?
Can
What's
I,
the
can,
request?
yeah. Every time I've been listening to you, you do the this has been disconnection.
Yeah.
Can I sign off with you?
Yeah, sure. So, all right. So I'm going to give,
Okay.
the outro
Mhm.
and I'm going to say, and we'll catch you on the next episode of, and then we say disconnection together and we'll go disconnection. Cool. All
Disconnection,
right. So
baby.
hold on. Well, guys, thank you for joining us for another episode on the Disconnection Podcast, where we aim to inform, inspire, and close the disconnections in your life. I'd like to thank our guest today, Leandro Barriga, for joining us and delivering a unique perspective on a range of topics. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, the podcast app. My name is Kyle, and we'll catch you on the next episode of
Disconnection, baby. Dude,
How did you mess that up?
how did I mess up? That was perfect.